Hello everyone! In this video I'll be making cheese from milk. This is the same recipe used to make paneer, a soft cheese made in India. Here in the United States it is called farmer's cheese. Last week I posted a video on how to make tofu at home with just soybeans and lemon juice, and I got some really nice feedback from you all. Many commented that you make cheese at home the same way, and it's actually easier to make cheese from milk because you start with the milk already made by the cow. There's no grinding of the beans like there is to make soy milk, although you might have to milk the cow first. I get my milk from the supermarket, and for making cheese I use whole milk. You can add cream to the milk if you want your paneer to be even softer and creamier, but for me whole milk is perfect. This milk is pasteurized and homogenized, which is fine. Just make sure it's not the ultra pasteurized variety, which kills everything in the milk and will not form the curds properly. Much like making soy milk curdle, you'll need some type of acid to get the milk to curdle. I like to use lemon juice. For this demonstration, I'm making a small batch, but feel free to double or triple this recipe. Just make sure you have a large enough pot to boil the milk in. Okay, I've got my pot ready and I pour in half a gallon of milk. I put the heat on a medium-low flame and keep stirring to prevent the bottom of the pot from burning. You might be tempted to put the lid on to speed up the boiling process, but I usually end up with the milk boiling over and making a mess all over the stovetop, so I like to watch and wait. It takes around 10 minutes until small bubbles start to form, and finally I see the milk is boiling. Oh, and if you've never boiled milk, then you are in for a real surprise, because if you don't watch the pot really carefully until it gets to the boiling point, it's going to rise up and boil over. A larger pot will save you from boiling the milk over. Unless, of course, you want the milk to boil over as a blessing for your new house. Boiling the milk over in a new pot is a Hindu housewarming ritual that symbolizes the abundance of prosperity and food which will bless the new home. It's also very messy. Once the milk has boiled, I turn off the flame and pour in the lemon juice. For a half gallon of milk, I use 4 tablespoons of reconstituted lemon juice. As soon as I pour in the lemon juice, I stir to make sure it's mixed in, and you can actually see the milk start to curdle almost immediately. If you don't see it curdling, then add in another tablespoon of lemon juice. Here you can see the curds separating from the liquid, which is called whey. The whey is a light yellow color. Once I see that the curds are forming properly, I put the cover on the pot and let it sit for about 10 minutes to finish curdling and to let the mixture cool down a bit. Here you can see I've prepared a colander on top of a pot and lined the colander with cheesecloth. And now we know why it's called cheesecloth. This mixture has been sitting here for about 10 minutes, so now I'm ready to pour it into the cheesecloth to separate out the curds from the whey. At this point, you can also pour some cold water over the curds to help rinse out the lemon juice, but I don't really notice the taste of the lemon juice in the cheese, so I skip that step. Now I gather up the corners of the cheesecloth and squeeze until I feel most of the liquid has been drained out of the curds. There is another technique that my mother-in-law used to use, and that is to tie the ends of the cheesecloth and hang the bundle over a faucet to drain out rather than squeezing. This method will produce a looser, more crumbly cheese, and if that's the texture you're going for, then hang it up to drain it out. At this point I've squeezed out as much whey as I can, so now I add in a teaspoon of salt, and this step is optional. You can also add in some herbs and spices at this point as well. If you're going to use the cheese to make a sweet Danish, then you might not want to add salt. I'm keeping it simple today, so I just added a teaspoon of salt. And make sure to mix it into the curds really well. Now it's time to form the curds into a block of cheese and let it drain some more. I have a tofu press that I use as a mold, so the cheese goes into it and I will leave it to drain for about 30 minutes. If you want a very firm cheese, then put a weight on it to let it press out the cheese even more. Much like when making tofu, the more weight you put on the cheese and the longer you let it sit, the more firm the cheese will be. If you like your cheese to be softer, then you probably shouldn't use a press, but rather hang it up over the faucet to drain. That's up to your preference. As you experiment with this recipe, you'll figure out which texture you like the best. After 30 minutes on my counter, I put the mold in the refrigerator to firm up even more. This method gives me a cheese that I can slice or cut into cubes without worrying about it crumbling or falling apart. And now the cheese has been sitting in the refrigerator for an hour and it's nice and firm, ready for me to unwrap and enjoy. For storage, you should wrap the cheese in a damp cloth to keep it moist. You can also put the paneer into a container filled with water. Make sure it's completely submerged. This is the same method used for storing tofu in the refrigerator, and it will keep the paneer nice and soft as it does for the tofu. And that's all there is to making cheese at home. I hope you experiment with this. It's a fun project to do with kids who are stuck at home when schools are closed, and it's a fun project for adults who just want to try something different. Who knows? Maybe you'll tweak this recipe and come up with your own unique version, and then we'll see you on Shark Tank. Thank you for your comments. I enjoy reading and learning from them, even if I can't answer them all. If you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching. Bye.